Welcome to Timberborn and the settlement of the Skyborn. My name is Zedek, we're playing Update 7, and I am absolutely pushing this game to its limits. You see, I'm taking this peaceful city builder and trying to make a city skyscape out of it. I just want to see how far I can push all these new building mechanics to build the city higher and higher and just have a massively interconnected city. And my goal for this episode is population. It might be surprising, but we've built all of this at only roughly 250 beavers. But we're reaching the point where that's not going to be enough. And our population historically has been held off by food and water, which we've solved to a completely unnecessary degree in the last couple of episodes. So let's get started. I want to start building lots of residential towers and start addressing our massive worker shortage. The first step is going to be deciding where to put these homes. Now, I'd like to put them somewhere central, because right now the assignment of worker to workplace is not very efficient, and so you could get workers who would take housing on one end of the map and walk all the way to the other. So I'm hoping to get around that by more or less just putting a bunch of housing really central to everything. Given that, I'm thinking this little patch of green is a good spot. It may not be all the housing, but maybe to start we can add beds for say 500 beavers here. Now, in a lot of ways, this spot is pretty ideal. It's close to water, we've got all our manufactured food right over here, and that's almost as close as you can get to the middle of the map, if not for our water pumping station right here. And we're fortunate that we have this space left at all. I had originally flattened all of this space for our food factory, but it ended up being so narrow that we never needed it. So, if this is the spot for our first housing, let's come up with a layout. Earlier today, I was tinkering with something where I was stacking some of these large row houses. I'd like to make like a very, very tall and narrow building connected by elevator shafts somehow. So let's see. I'm thinking we could have two towers here and here, and then maybe we could provide Skybridges as shortcuts over to the food factory, as well as a shortcut over to the water station. And then maybe some decorations or amenities in the middle that can give a happiness bonus. For the layout of these buildings, I was thinking of something like this, where we've got a big stack of row houses and the elevator in the middle, and where it gets hidden like that. Then in the center alleyway, we can just add some overhangs, and that gives us space for the next round of elevator. Then for the side here, we're going to have a little gap. What I'm thinking we could do is just put one platform here and here, have space for some decoration of our choice, whether that's a statue or shrub or something, and then that should set us up to complete the floor like this. From there, we're just going to be able to continue stacking that all the way up. So let's do some quick math. This works out to roughly 50 beavers per floor, 56 beavers per floor, and if we look to see how many floors we'd be able to build, so this is going to be roughly 400 homes per tower when fully built. And honestly, this is fairly efficient when I look at it. Like, there's not a lot of overhangs, and these buildings just take logs. So in terms of volume, it's just a tower made mainly out of logs, which is pretty cheap. Now, before I just plop down two of these towers and build it, I'm going to make it more complicated. Because what I'd like to do is also stack up a bunch of amenities and bonuses around it. For example, maybe we could put showers down here. Maybe we could put some of the tribute to ingenuity around, stuff like that. In fact, when I think of it, I think we only have one shower for this entire colony still. Yeah, right here. I think most people are getting showers from their swimming pool. Not a very hygienic swimming pool. That means that for this tower, I'm going to need maybe to lift it off the ground a bit to make room for that stuff. And if I look at this tower base, I think it might be the exact same dimensions as this. Yes, it is. So we might be able to pick two of these spots and raise the tower off the ground to get some of the space on the ground back, like that. And then we can just use one central elevator to get down to the floor. Yeah, I like that idea. And if we're being very tricky, maybe what I could do is line that up with this freeway tubeway station on the aqueduct, so it's just right. Yes, I think that looks good. So that gives us the plan. Let's go ahead and put down this tower foundation. Something like that. So that gives us very good clearance. We can build a ton of stuff in there. easy access to our subway line here, and we've got a nice cutaway over into this area. Now, I don't need power yet, but this would have also been a good use for power here. I could have spliced into this and run power through here, and if I need it, that would allow me to go up the base of the tower. But so far, I'm not planning any amenities on the tower that are going to require power. I think what I'm going to do now is make a symmetrical version of this tower right here. And I'm liking this because now I'll be able to look down this center atrium here and still be able to see the actual food tower that I've created in the background. Otherwise, I'm building all this stuff. Eventually, I'm never going to be able to see what I've built. So let's see if I can manage to get this built in the exact same location mirrored on the other side here. Now, the final touch of the foundation is that I need access from all these towers down to the first floor where I'm going to put these amenities. I'm going to make something central like this. Should be able to tie in just to that little subway line there. So we have one exit here, and that can run down to whatever we need. If you are a sad person on the road who can't get access, we can connect you there. I like that. I think for some of the other buildings, I'll make them more traditional towers from the base, but I like for this part, because we're having so many beavers through here, I want easy access to these two ways just to be a central part of the design. Now, to get these foundations built, we're in a little bit of a jam because beavers can't get access to these without me building some scaffolding or supports or something. I wonder, how much space do we have left over on our food tower up here? Could I get beavers to hang off the edge of this tower to build the foundation? Well, I think I might. Hopefully that's going to be enough for them to be able to build these towers. I have a feeling I might need to add a few other scaffolding here and there, but we'll give them some time, and then we'll reevaluate and see what we need to tweak. Good, foundation in. Let's start to get these homes put down. I'm going to start with at least the first foundation, and make sure that the beavers can build everything. And once I know that, then it's going to be a lot easier to just start stacking all of this stuff out. So let's put down those homes like that, run these here, and get our overhangs in. I think the big part of this design is going to hinge on the builders being able to access this part. So if as long as these can reach down there, I think we're perfect. And I have a feeling that block right there is going to be the problem. I don't think they can get access to it from our overhang. Yeah. I love, by the way, this new addition. If you don't use this tool very often, the Show Construction Guidelines tool, you can see when I hover it over here, I can see down here. If you look at, keep your eye on this block, you can see that shows where the center point is. And I know a beaver can build one in any direction off of block that they're standing on. So that means they could build this one and this one, but they're not going to be able to reach this one. So I wonder, can I get away with just extending this a little bit? Yes, that should do the trick. The next thing we should figure out is what to do about the decorations on the side. And I'm going to use a nice shortcut that somebody pointed out in the comments. So call out to Tau from the comment section from last video. He pointed out that you can push Alt and middle mouse click to use the layer tool to jump to a particular slice. The way it works is that anytime you point to a flat surface that you can see, if you hold the Alt and hit middle mouse click, it will jump to that slice. So in this case, I want to look at this part to design it. I could click it once to show it, and if I click it again, it will reset the view back to what it was, which I'm finding is really nice instead of using the layer selector when I've got so much stuff going on. So let's take a look down here. I'm thinking that we're going to alternate decorations above here and here for each floor. Let's see, we can start with some greenery. Beavers are living in this industrial zone. I think they want to see at least a little bit green. And we can finish off with that. And before I forget, let's make sure that we have actual roads down in there. Now, let's give them a little bit to build this. But otherwise, I think this design is good to go. We could just repeat this all the way to the top of the map. And it worked. Okay, no complaints. Honestly, this is a fairly smooth build. So with all those problems figured out, let's just go ahead and start stacking everything up. I'm sure the next optimization on my part will be starting to remember the exact build order to build this most efficiently. And we're very quickly getting to the top of this scaffolding already. Let's see, how many floors can I manage to fit in here before I get to the top now? I know I've eaten up probably 1 or 2 floors because of the way I offset this on stilts. Yep. Unfortunately, it looks like we're only going to get 1 more floor before we hit the top of the roof. Well, that's okay. That just gives us an opportunity to build even more towers elsewhere. I don't think I'm going to build all the towers on stilts like this. It is pretty ridiculous. And, that's some good beaver engineering. But I think in the other places, I might go for a more traditional tower. So, if this is going to be the very last floor, I'm wondering if I should, I don't know, tweak the design a little bit. Make something interesting. I've seen some buildings where they have 2 towers, and the towers somehow connect with a sky bridge in the middle with some decoration. I'm wondering if we could pull off something here to connect these 2 towers somehow. Because we've lost all this vertical height with my stilt, I think we do have a few more blocks of vertical space that we could build with. For example, would we have enough space that we could put down, say, a monument in any of these spots? Well, unfortunately, definitely not the tribute to ingenuity. That seems to be at its height limit. But the Flame of Unity would be possible if we made some set of stilts that connected these two. To give you an idea, what I had in mind is if I can make these stilts somehow connect at a far distance, say something like this, I could have them meet in the middle. Like so. And then from that middle spot, if I could have it extend somehow, that gives me a nice spot that I could build the monument. And I'm not sure the best way to make this look aesthetically pleasing, but you can imagine, say, the monument sitting like that. Ooh, that actually looks pretty nice with the tribute to ingenuity there. This might be, I might be willing to redo some of this design to make it down here and have it suspended in the middle there. And then the big thing with this is we're going to need some way to get power to it. We got power over here, so maybe we could just run a line from the building behind the tribute. I like this. I like apparently making my life harder. So let's delete some of these to get down to the floor below, where we're going to need to work on this. So let's say I want a nice, pleasing arch up to this design. And if I made a platform here, in the middle, is that going to be low enough now for the tribute? After I see it, I could actually go 1 layer lower. I think would look even better. Just in the middle of everything. Let's do that. Let's go down to even the floor underneath this and see how it would look. There we go. Just deleted 1 more floor to get to this. I think that looks better. It looks a little bit more balanced with everything. The only thing we need to figure out is how to get power to this giant thing. Well, if the monument is looked at from this way, we could just make the power running right immediately behind it, so it's not super obvious. And we do have power here. So if we're lucky, maybe we can find a floor here that's within striking distance to the base. I think this floor would probably be enough. We just need to get the right combination of blocks. Yes, I think that little bridge right here, you can't see it really from behind. So if we ran gears like that over to the center, we just need to find a way to get the gears connected over here. Which, honestly, is going to be way easier than I feared. Just run a line like this, connect it down in front of the building, and we're good to go. And then maybe we can build a staircase down here that some engineering beaver can go down and sit at a bench behind everything. I'm going to really have to explore this map with the first-person mod afterwards, because this would be a very scary bench to go and sit at. Not a place to go if you're afraid of heights. And when I look at it from this way, that is all nicely hidden. Plus, we're going to get that big area of effect to all those residential homes. Okay, I'm quite pleased with how that turned out. Unfortunately, I had to do a lot of destruction to make that possible, so let's piece back a lot of the design that I tore apart. The more I look at this, I think we really lucked out in terms of being able to build this. You see, for example, I need to get beavers down here to build all of these platforms, and I don't have overhangs above here. But I think it's just going to perfectly work out because we already know that we can get this overhang through here. This tubeway, the beavers can work diagonally to build this foundation. Same with this tubeway over here. Beavers should be able to build this from here. Then they're going to walk down the stairs to build this. And then from that overhang, they should now be able to build that. So we can get away without any additional overhangs to build this thing. As we're building this, a couple viewers asked why I put the tubeways above ground. And you're seeing again more of this right now where I make these skybridges connecting the two buildings. That's intentional with this build. I really like seeing the beavers run around with the light show as they travel through the city. I just think it gives the city that futuristic feel that I'm going for. And from a more practical point of view, this also gives me an idea of where my traffic is flowing through the city. So it's already helped me in a couple places where I've noticed that the lights are really shining through a route that I didn't expect the beavers to take, and is maybe a place I should optimize. And as they finish the roof of this building, you can see I snuck in a few extra decorations here and there. I also stuck in 2 flames of unities. I think they look pretty nice in there. They kind of balance each other out. And to wrap up this building, I think I'm going to add a few amenities down at the base floor, so I can get even more happiness points. This is some prime real estate down here for amenities. I'm thinking at the very least we could add some pools down here so I can get the wet fur bonus. And I'm wondering if I could pull off adding a few mud baths and campfires. So to get this to work, I think we could run some power down through this area here, clear out this space and this space for some pools, and then all of this can be cleared out for some mud baths. With that cleared up, that should give us room for 6 mud baths down here, as well as 2 swimming pools. And because I don't want these beavers to melt in the sun while they're enjoying their sauna, why don't we just put a few roofs on the top here? A few additional fences, some back scratchers, and we've got all our amenities ready down here. And I think that more or less does it for this tower. But there's a catch. We still do have a population shortage. And that's because with the Iron Teeth, we need to grow our citizens in vats. And I haven't boosted our population for a while. As you can see here, we've got advanced breeding pods over on our Old Town district, as well as on this really kind of haphazard building that I built over here. Now, if you haven't been following the full series, I have a limitation on myself that any of our breeding pods have to be built suspended in the air somehow. I figured this is the colony of the Skyborn. I'm trying to keep that consistent. So, to start populating our giant building over here, we're going to need to pick some spot up in the air to add some advanced breeding pods. And I'm thinking our water tower in the middle of the map might be a good spot. So this entire thing is actually filled up with water behind the scenes. And you can see I've got this little atrium right here in the middle that I haven't used yet. And I think this would be a good place if I were to make some ledges sticking out of the edges here to put some breeding pods. So let's give this a try. I'm fairly certain that I can get rid of these, and they will very quickly pick up those resources. And I'm thinking I might be able to build something, some outcropping like this. Then we could breed the Skyborn hanging over the edge there. And we could repeat this process on each of the corners. I'm even tempted later on, once we get all these set up, to have this waterfall on all sides so that maybe we could have the waterfall cascading run right in front of the breeding pods. I'm going to try something like this. We can always change it if it doesn't look just right. But if we stack something like this and in this direction, that would give all of those there, and they're all meeting my requirement that they're hanging off the ground. For the Iron Teeth, you can use some math to figure out how much population each one of these breeding pods are going to give you. In the early part of the game with the base happiness, that roughly works out to around 10 beavers per breeding pod. However, as your happiness goes up, the average life expectancy of a beaver also goes up. And so as that happiness goes up, each of these breeding pods starts supporting a much larger population on its own. I think right now, by my math, each one will support 18 beavers. So given that, I'm just going to shoot to double the population up to around 500 beavers. So I'm just going to build 2 of these outcroppings, one on either side. From the inside, we can just connect these 2 wings, and they need both berries and extract. So we can go ahead and cart those in too. And as a final touch, I think it would look nice if I actually made use of some of this green space here. So let's put down a forest or a farmhouse, and then we can put down a few trees here and there. Very important too, I should make sure all of these are prioritized by haulers. Otherwise, I find sometimes the haulers forget them. And you can see that lines up just right so that those breeding ponds should be just behind the waterfall. And I'm going to temporarily prioritize both the farm and the forester in here so we can get these planted, and then I can go ahead and pause them. But the good news is, with these built, we should finally have our population starting to be fixed and fill in all those job vacancies. Now, as we wait for our population to start climbing though, there's one minor adjustment I think I'd like to make to this build. And that's that there's not yet an easy way to get something to drink. You see, if all these beavers are going to bed here, in the morning they're going to wake up and probably get some food over on this side. But for all my long-term water storage, there isn't a nice way to get to it. I'm thinking we could add a skybridge from here over to here, which would give them easy access to all that drinking water. So that involves getting something connected from here to here. Surprisingly, this is actually not that hard to do. All I need is one set of platforms and a couple of overhangs, and we've got it good to go. The hardest part is getting builder access to here, but I think I could just put down some cheap stairs up here, and that should let a beaver get to this one, and then the rest could be built from within the tubeways. Not everything needs really complicated scaffolding. And as soon as this is placed down, you can see how much it's being used. And they are indeed running in here, grabbing water from their first container and going. A couple of days of waiting is already showing our population starting to climb up and our vacancies starting to go down. I think this new building is a success. And I think I'm going to wrap up this episode here. With our new workforce, we still do have quite a bit of building to be done. I've been eyeing this section over here to build a new hospital, some haulering posts, some builder huts, and I'm actually thinking of a nice entertainment district. I'd also like to mix up the terrain a bit. I've got some ideas to maybe put a reflection pond in here. We also still have this corner of the map that still gets polluted by bad tide. So a lot of building still to look forward to. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope to catch you next time.